Please can you remind me, if you'll be so kind, staring out into space, asking God to hear my case, trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last? For purple angel, purple angel, purple angel, you're next.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, the founder. And my mom had dementia for 30 years, and that is why I started Alzheimer Speaks, which is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort around the world. And it's just been an honor for me to be able to talk with and collaborate with all different levels of people, from those diagnosed to business professionals and researchers, to family and friends, and those that are a little more on the creative side, singers, songwriters, and authors, playwrights, etc. So today we're going to have a really interesting conversation. Our guest has been with us before, but before I introduce him, I want to just say thanks to all of our listeners, because your likes, your clicks, and your shares have made a huge difference here at Alzheimer Speaks. You see, you are helping share great content around the world with your sphere, and that is what people need. I hear that from them all the time. So thank you so much, and please consider being a guest of ours on the show as well, because I know you have a story to tell, just like everyone else does. I want to also give a shout out to the Dementia Action Alliance. They are doing their second North American Dementia Conference, June 20th through the 22nd, down in Atlanta. And theirs is a unique conference because they have so many people with dementia being their keynote speakers. And so it's a fascinating conference where I know you would learn an awful lot. I also want you to come and join me on April 13th for the Megathon, which is going to be a virtual event happening, again, April 13th from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And the goal of this is to get 100,000 people playing a game called Stall Catchers that actually analyzes Alzheimer's data. And if we can get 100,000 people to play this game for an hour, we will push the research data ahead a year. Cornell University has found a way to restore the memories of mice with Alzheimer's, and hopefully we are next. And so join us in that venture April 13th. You can go to stallcatchers.com for more information, or megathon.us. Now, let me introduce our guest today. I'm so glad to have him back with us. Geert Bettinger has his bachelor's and master's degree in social work. He is a trainer and a team coach within both the care and welfare systems over in the Netherlands. He teaches employees how to look at behavior problems in new ways. And he really challenges them to deal creatively and positively by looking within their own ideas and their own beliefs of what a problem or a behavior is. He is also the author of a very well-known book called Moving On by Standing Still, and I highly, highly recommend it. You can get it on Amazon. Geert is a professor at the University of Amsterdam, Bucharest, and also in, is it Wixa in China? And what is it?
Wuxi.
Oh, Wuxi. I wasn't even close. Wuxi. Okay. In China. Okay, where he teaches psychologists, doctors, and nurses in dementia care. He has also been doing a master's class in the Netherlands, Belgium, and the United Kingdom, Romania, and China, which caters to families, nurses, caseworkers, and people with dementia. So welcome, Geert. So glad to have you back with us.
Yes. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you. And a very nice introduction. First, I thought you were talking about somebody else, but it's about me, I know.
Well, you have done an awful lot and continue to do an awful lot. But before I get into our line of questioning, I always like to ask so that our audience has a base. Have you been personally touched by dementia, either with family or friends?
Yes. My mother, she has dementia for about 10 years, and she died about 8 years ago. So that was the most closest person in my life who has dementia, vascular dementia, not Alzheimer. But in a way, it's for me, it's the same, because my mother changes a lot, and also the relationship changes a lot. But I always was involved with people with dementia. But so close as my mother now, she was the most closest. Yes.
Okay, great. Would you feel comfortable sharing some of the symptoms that your mom had with vascular dementia? Some of the things you saw change?
At first place, she was my mother. For me, she was my mother with dementia. So the relationship between my mother and me was not so well. Was always a bit difficult from the start. But since she has vascular dementia, her character changes a lot, and she was more, how I say, she's more sharp in her comments and in her way of behaving. So it was difficult for me to have a good relationship, or a better relationship. For her also, it must be very difficult to see me, because she felt her changes.
Okay, that's helpful for people just to kind of get a little background there.
I don't want to talk anymore about the target group dementia people. I don't like that. I visit many hospitals, many nursery homes, and they're always talking about the dementia group or the dementia department. And no, for me, it's more and more. I have a lot of meetings with people with dementia. For me, more and more, it's a person with dementia. Like my mother. My mother is unique, a unique person, and the relationship between my mother and me was also unique. She has another relationship with my sisters or my brothers. Now, I don't want to talk about people with dementia. For me, it's Laurie with dementia or Geert with dementia. That is for me the most important way of looking at the people. And the first contact I have with a person and not with dementia. For me, that is a change in my way of thinking the last years. I'm also interested in all kinds of theoretical ideas about Alzheimer or vascular or whatever. Of course, you have to know something, but more and more I see it is the person, and that I like.
Okay, so really putting that relationship first and getting to know them, because nobody walks around with a, with a scarlet letter on their head, saying, I've got heart disease, or, I've got whatever. Everybody wants to be seen for who they are. Now, I know that you feel real strongly that listening is a very important skill, listening and watching. Can you explain why you think those two characteristics are so important in humans, and how they can have a positive impact?
How can I explain that? I think people with dementia, or a person with dementia, he has the most important experience. He's the only one who has experience with dementia by himself. I don't have any experience how it feels to have dementia. I have no idea how I would behave when I have when I have dementia. I don't know how I will behave. So it's very nice to be with people with dementia who don't talk. I have a lot of conversations without talking with people. And I give you an example. There were some Chinese students who are here in the Netherlands, Chinese students, nurses and psychologists. and they even didn't know any English word, or they didn't know any Dutch word, and the people with dementia, they don't have any Chinese word. And the contact was very beautiful. It was a very natural contact. And I learned a lot how people with dementia and people without the language could have contact. So I like to have contact with people who don't talk, because they make a lot clear to me. It's just a feeling.
So when you say they make it a lot clearer to you, because you have to focus, and you don't have all the outside ramble jambles going on. You really have to focus at what's before you. I totally agree with that, and I think in our fast-paced life, we get so caught up with things being exactly how we want them to be, and this immediate response, and it teaches us patience and really waiting for an answer, and using what I call our multi-sensory modes of communicating, and all those small little details that
I love
that we sometimes just push aside really become the meat of the matter, and really are what matters. And
Laurie, people with dementia, persons with dementia, they are leading me, they're guiding me, and I'm not the guide from these people. Of course, I can help them to make something clear, but I like that they have the direction about their own life, and they can do. I saw on your show, I always remember your guest in your show I met last year, like Harry. He was fantastic, and I mention him in every masterclass I give. I talk about your show because you are not talking about people with dementia, you're talking with people with dementia. And for me, that is not in the Netherlands. Even in the Netherlands, we don't have this like you have. So it is a marvelous idea to listen to people with dementia. Harry is a very interesting person because I like him. That's why he's very interesting for me.
They all were so impressed and had so much fun when you were on the show, and we're hoping to be able to join us again. But many of them are speaking, and others are going through some lifestyle changes with moving and all kinds of jazz right now. But you're right, they have such great insights, and it's not, I'm not talking at them or with them because they have dementia. It's because they are a human being that's fascinating and exciting and full of great ideas and creativity, and that's what Alzheimer Speaks is really all about, is gathering that from whoever has it.
This morning I had a lunch with a very famous professor here in the Netherlands. She is professor for Alzheimer. She's very famous here, and I talked with her what I was going to do tonight, to talk with you. And she said, "Oh, we should have this kind of shows in the Netherlands, because many people talking about but not with, and that is what you're doing, and it's marvelous work, really, really, really." So I'm sure she will see our show on Thursday, and maybe she will have contact with you. It's marvelous. And that is what I want. I don't want to have contact with dementia. I don't want to have, even, I work with many people with disabilities, the developmental disabilities. And we are talking, we are only talking, but it's better to listen. And that's much, much, much more difficult than talking. So I like people to have contact without talking. You learn a lot.
You really do. And I still need to learn to shut my flap many times, because I love getting into the conversation, but there is so much to be learned if we just sit and take it in. And I think the other thing that I love about your work is you, like me, are focusing on commonalities instead of differences. And when we focus on those differences, it parts our ways, it builds that barrier, and one person feels superior to another, and And when you look at your commonalities, you're evening that playing field, and you're really getting into the depths of the relationship, knowing that both sides have value and meaning, and
Yes.
that you're stronger together.
Yes.
And it's been, I've been doing this, for I think 7 or 8 years now. And it's been a battle because so many people didn't understand in the beginning why would you talk to people with dementia? Why would you talk to their families? Why would we not? They are such a vessel of information and great ideas, and nobody is at a higher stake than them living with this disease. And so they take the time to explore nooks and crannies that we haven't, because we don't know the depths of the pain, and yet they're filled with hope. And so changing that whole trajectory too, from that fear mongering, that life is over, to being hopeful in that, there's still a great life to be had with any disease. Attitude affects a lot there. Now you've talked in the past about medical views in terms of background versus the human view, and trying to put that more to the forefront. Can you talk a little bit more on that?
Yes, yes. I would like to talk about that. As I told you, I give classes to people from university, psychologists and high standard nurses. And they are very well educated. They know a lot. They know a lot theory. They know a lot scientific things. They know. But when I come in this class, they got my book, and I bring them down back to earth. I can't stand the theories, the abstraction of all the scientific. I'm not against scientific research, of course not, but it must be. It mustn't be a goal. It must help you. So it's more difficult to make contact with people than talk about people. And this morning I told you I had a very nice lunch with the professor, and she agrees with me. And now I see more and more people also in universities, elder people like me. They want to go back to the normal situation. They feel they are flying away from the persons, and they are talking about dementia or whatever. And more, a group is growing here in the Netherlands. Let's talk about normal things. We even have now nursery homes without doctors, without psychologists, without any scientific person, with mothers, with fathers, with kind nurses. And when you see films from these people, how they live, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. No doctors, no nurses, no doctors, no psychologists. In the world we are changing. I can see we are changing.
Yeah. Do you have any of the butterfly models over there? I just, when I first saw that film, two good friends, one from Australia and then one from California here, went and documented that. And it was so much fun to see how in depth they were, how relationship based. And,
Yes.
They talk about not having separate bathrooms, not taking breaks separately, eating, no. Everything is together. And they even told me, it wasn't in their film, but they said at nighttime, they realized that people were confused because they would get up and staff was dressed. So now a lot of times staff wears pajamas.
Yes, I know.
So it makes sense.
Yes,
that it's nighttime. And so it just such simple, logical, reality-based moments to keep somebody calm and happy and relevant in their world instead of ours.
I love it. We have more and more in the Netherlands, more and more we see. Just because some people say, let's stop to have a doctor in the house. Let's stop to have psychologists in the house. Let's do if my mother is here living. And that is true. I mean, some people have pajamas in the night. It's okay. Eating with the people, not eating separated from the people. It's more a family. And we see more and more, and that's what we are doing in China now. And in China, we are trying to make some of these kind of not hospitals, but living homes. Yes, and you are also doing the same. You inspire, even you, not even, but you inspire me. The way you do, you inspire me. Last Friday, I had a conversation with a doctor from Orlando, from a magnet hospital. I don't know if you know magnet hospitals. It's very high standard hospitals. And I talked with him, what about people with dementia when they come in the hospitals? We give them some medicines and we kick them on the street. And that's also American. So it's ridiculous. We see in Romania, we see in China, and we see in America, in a Western country. So we have a lot to do, Laurie. There's a lot to do.
A lot of work going on. Yeah, I know Gary LeBlanc is doing a lot with hospitals in terms of training and doing the Purple Angel wristband and things. But hospital systems are massive, and it takes a long time to just enter their space, and then to really get everybody familiarized. I mean, truly understanding, and not just going to a class because I have to, but really understanding the impact that they're having is a whole nother level. And we're making great strides here. I look 10 years ago where we were to where we are now, and you can't pick up a newspaper or turn on a TV or listen to the radio without hearing something about dementia. But again, it still isn't enough. I really would like to see a series, a TV series or a international radio show with this that everybody can be part of. And that's been one of my goals since day one. When I created Alzheimer Speaks, I never saw it as mine. I just saw it as everyone. Getting people to collaborate over here is still a battle. They're starting to come on board because they have to, because there's not the money and there's not the staff and there's not the time. And so it's almost been, we've almost been forced into it. But however we have to go there, people are seeing the benefits of the collaboration, involving the people with dementia in those collaborations as well. We're doing, in my Roseville grassroots group, we're trying to get our airport here dementia friendly. And so we're working with an international group, which has been really quite fascinating, and trying to figure out some standards that we're working on a survey so that everybody can kind of share that information instead of recreating the wheel. I think that's one of the things I love about the world of dementia too, is more people are sharing knowledge than packing it away and saying it's just mine.
Yeah, the dementia-friendly. In the Netherlands, you see more and more dementia-friendly neighborhoods. So the people in the shops, they are educated for how to behave when somebody with dementia comes into your shop. And more we see in the lower level, not the professional level, we see more and more understanding for people with dementia. And it would be nice when people could live just in the street, like everybody. And so the nursery homes, you see in the Netherlands a change. Let's not stop the nursery home, but make the community more responsible for each other. It's such an egoistic, a community. And more we are teaching the children, this woman or this man, okay, he has dementia, be nice to him. And like 50 years ago, it was normal. And we go back to the future.
Yeah, very, very much so. Can you tell people about your book, Moving On by Standing Still? I just find it a fascinating book, and people need to know more about it.
And I always tell, I wrote more books than I read. So I wrote one book and I didn't read any book. The book is very, very, very simple. And I never thought that it was such a success in the way that everybody can read it. It's very, you read it. It is very, very simple language. It's not difficult theory. It's just a way of looking, a view, a way of thinking. It's the first. Maybe another title was also good. My first title was in my head was this book is going about nothing. It was the first title in my soul. So it's so simple. It's so simple. It's just a way of living. And what I got from many reviews all over the world now is because the case studies in the book, people can recognize them all. That's one. And the difference between other books about dementia is that reflection. Every chapter has about 10 reflection questions. That has to do because many nurses and care workers, they are running, and working, and doing. And I say, just stand still. Stop. Why are you doing this? Why do you give this person bread? Why do you give them coffee? Why doesn't this Mr. Make his own coffee? So it's a book about reflection, and that's why the people in the universities and also parents and also children from people with dementia, they want to read about it because it's very simple. Very simple.
But I think that's one of the biggest gifts, and I know for me and my journey with my mom of 30 years was finding out everything really is simple. It's not complicated. It's not hard. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do this.
Yes.
And we've been fed that along with the fear that we are not competent to deal with this. And every individual at every age has the ability to adapt and to work with and build relationships. And nobody can stop that. The only one that can stop that is ourselves if we buy into that theory. So that's why I think books like yours are so important, because it gets people to kind of go, oh, that's it? Really? I can do that. I can do that. And it gets that verbiage and changes that thought pattern to empower them. And to me, I think that has been part of the problem, is we have been all disempowered to believe that we aren't enough to make a difference.
Yes, I agree. It encourages people to go on just in a simple way. That's we all are human beings, and that is an open door, what I tell. But in this book, it gives people a bit of insight, and just follow your heart. It's I cannot find any word. Yes, reflection is important, and case studies are important, and recognizing. I think I never thought that it was this. It went all over the world. I never thought that. And people, they think, oh, now you will be rich. And people think, oh, he's selling books in England and Canada and China, whatever. You know, Laurie, I'm very rich, but not because of the money, because of the contacts I have. It makes me very rich. It's an honor to be in a show. That makes me feel rich. To go to China makes me feel rich, and to talk with people like Harry, it makes me feel rich. And that are the efforts. No, that are the royalties of my book, not the money. I'm totally not interested in the money.
Well, and I agree with you on what makes a person rich. You know, it is the relationships, it is those conversations, it is those moments. And I know people think, my company is huge because people around the world know. It's like, it's me. It's just me. It's not a big company. It's not a big concept. It's a simple thing about let's connect. Let's share. Let's just make the world a better place. And, one of the things in your book you talk about is really stop using the word behavior and look at those reactions as signals and clues to an unmet need. And again, a very simple concept that we can apply throughout our whole entire life, not just when we're dealing with somebody with dementia,
Sure.
and it's a beautiful life lesson. Can you talk a little bit more about the signals and the clues instead of the problem behaviors that we like to label things?
Yes. You read my book. The first chapter is about me. It's about my time as a child. I was abused as a child, sexually abused as a child, and I was a so-called problem child because I showed problem behavior. I did very strange things. I realized that afterwards. But that was my way of coming out. Something is wrong. Something is wrong in my life, and I didn't have any word for it. I couldn't talk about it. Even if I had the words, I couldn't talk about it. I didn't dare to talk about it. So now we see people with much problem behavior. We call that so. And I hate that word because a problem behavior means distance. When your behavior is problem behavior, I have a distance between you and me. And when I say, let's see it as a signal, it makes our relationship more closer. Because, hey, Laurie, what you mean by, maybe you can tell me, maybe you can find out what is going on inside you. And problem behavior is like this. I know better and you have a problem and I have the solution. Now, you know, Laurie, and many masterclass I say this, you know what problem behavior is? What the care workers show is problem behavior. What the nurses show is problem behavior. Because the people with dementia, they don't understand you. So you have to change. The behavior from people with dementia or developmental disabilities, that I call signal. It's a signal. Let's try to find out what is the meaning of the signal. And you come in a very, very nice world, in a very strange world that you can come in the world. And problem behavior is, what's the perspective? The perspective is from how we as nurses and psychologists, we show problem behavior because the people, they don't understand us. And that is my way of change, a big change in my way of living. And everywhere I come, everybody is surprised about this view. Because when I say, just give me some examples from problem behavior, they say, shouting and hurting and spitting and but no, I didn't ask problem behavior from the client. But why you think first to the client? But what is your? And then they say, "Oi, I run too fast. I have no time. I take no time. I give medicine. Blah blah blah." Okay, that's called that problem behavior. And for me, it's a mission now. I'm interested in you when you give a signal. When you do this, it's a signal.
So what would that be a signal of?
When I do this, I love you.
Okay. So, but I mean, sometimes people don't know, if it's not somebody that they know. And then,
I don't know either. But when somebody is very aggressive, you see a lot of aggression in people with dementia or developmental disabilities. A lot of aggression. But when you see it as a problem, you give medicines. But when you see it as a signal, you are more interested in what is going wrong. And of course, it's not so easy to find out what is going on. So talk with other colleagues, have a discussion, try to find out. But don't judge the behavior. When you judge this behavior, you are on the wrong way.
You brought up a really good point about sharing, with colleagues and things. When you're seeing these clues or these signals, when we look at them in that fashion, we're looking at how to prevent them or what is triggering them. to figure out what's what versus, oh yeah, they're bad. They're going in timeout. They're getting a medication. We have to, keep them away from people. All of those types of things, or scolding. And so often, so many of the issues are so teeny. Like it could be a glare that's in their eye. It could be a temperature that's too hot or too cold. It could be that they have to go to the restroom, or that they're hungry or thirsty or tired. Simple, everyday needs. And so when we kind of take Maslow's theory and go right back down to the base of what are the needs and start there, instead of everyone's looking way up here, but their needs are really way down here again. To me, I think that makes a huge, huge difference. And we're not trained to look at all the multiple senses that we have that could trigger us being uncomfortable, because usually a behavior, a signal, a reaction, or whatever is deemed negative because it doesn't fit into our everyday pattern, but it's usually because we're uncomfortable. There's something off. And if we look at it that our job is to keep them comfortable, we can look at it in a different light.
Yes, I was in a nursery home last. I visited many times nursery homes, and I was asked to look at the aggression from the person. He was very aggressive, and the doctor said we give him more and more medicines because the nurses, they cannot stand this behavior anymore. So I have to give this person more medicines. And I said to her, why you give the person more medicine? Why you don't give the team more medicines? Because the team cannot manage this person. That is the problem. So I think the person with aggression, he tries to give us a signal. And it was true. And after some days, we found out what was going on. Because he had so many medicines that he didn't know even if he lived, yes or no. So for him, it was complete confusion, like walking in the mist. So when somebody hit him or wanted to bring him to the toilet, he didn't know what was happening. So I said to the doctor, just give the nurses more medicine. It's a way of equalizing. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, and it's so important because so many times they're mirroring back our behavior. So they might be having a reaction, but then we add to it because now we're coming in going, hey, stop that, and blah, blah, and voices get raised, or our facial expressions are growling at them, and then they're more set back and they get more aggressive because we amped it up. And so often we don't look at ourselves as, oh, they were probably much better before I came in.
I really love this view. They give us. I said, be happy that some person shows aggression, because some people, they don't show anything. They are sitting in a corner in a chair, and nobody pays attention to the person because it's easy. He doesn't say anything. Blah blah blah. So we have to pay attention also to these people who sit there quiet in his chair and don't show any aggression or anything you don't like. What you say, it's a mirror. See the behavior as a mirror, and that is what in my book is written about. It's reflection. What the people in front of you expresses is how you behave, and that is so normal that people don't think about it because they have no time.
I think a lot of times, I know here in the US anyways, everyone's pretty task oriented. This is the priority. It's got away from that relationship base. But I mean, our banks, our grocery stores, our libraries, everything has gotten so automated nowadays that it's all task oriented. And I know I miss being able to even just to go into the bank and having a personal banker to talk to, or having somebody who actually knows the business instead of this rotation of staff, which we're seeing in healthcare, or understaffing. And so it's become even, I think, more important for us to understand what you're talking about in your book, because we have to keep the calm. Instead of elevating it, because we don't have the staff and the talent.
What I often hear in nursing homes is, when I finish my work, I go to do nice things with the people. I say, what you say? That is your work, to do nice things with the people. But when they say, no, when I finish my work, washing, dressing, medicine, blah, 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 writing, that is not your work. Your work is having contact with the people. So after I have finished my work, I do nice things. So we have to change that.
Yeah, and a lot of that I know here has to do with our regulation. And so we have to convince the regulators that this is important work that outweighs the other factors and stuff. But instead, I was at a conference the other day, and I was talking about, my mom, and how she was scared of a toothbrush, and so her teeth got broken and chipped, and that she didn't dress up like she used to, because she didn't take a shower as often because there was fear of the shower and the grooming and all of those types of things. And the staff said, well, you're kind of an unusual person. We have a lot of family that get really upset about that. And I said, I agree. I think I am different. I also think that you can take some responsibility by not educating your families as to why. If families knew how agitated somebody got, they might be a lot more subdued and not be after you that mom's hair isn't perfect or clothes aren't perfect. And if we get them focusing on really heartfelt emotions and what is their contentment feeling, instead of how do they look and everything being task oriented. I said, and it was funny because the one woman wasn't happy with my answer. She was an administrator, of a nursing home. And then I saw all these other heads going, yep, in the audience. We do have to educate people. But there's such great fear that, well, if everyone doesn't look good, they're not going to want to come. But yet, if they're happy and they're engaged, and if the staff is happy and there's this bond, and I know that feeling from when I worked with developmentally disabled. I worked in a place that was like a 100-bed community, and the surveyors were going to shut us down because they said we weren't giving good care, and we were giving great care. We were giving great care to the individuals, but we were lacking on some of the regulation tick points. But it wasn't, the residents were not missing out in terms of what was delivered, but it was the standard of care and how that was packaged. And I always felt bad about that whole process because I thought the owner was really beat up, and yet he was so focused on resident relationships with their staff. And yet it wasn't appreciated. And I think to this day, it isn't appreciated as much as probably what I want and what you want if we ever are in that position. If we can get people to think, I could be the next person.
Yes.
Do I want them ticking off a list, or do I want somebody to sit down and have a laugh with me? Or hold my hand, or wipe a tear when I'm crying, or whatever. What is it that we really want?
Laurie, I call this the happy moments. It is not a happy day or a happy afternoon. No, we live in happy moments. And a happy moment can be, like you tell, holding the hand, or just doing this, or just saying nothing and just be there. It are just moments. With dementia, it is not a whole day happiness. Even in my life, it's not a whole day happiness. So it are moments. And it's so beautiful to mention this like happy moment. Also for the nurses. Be happy that you have just a short contact with the person. And instead of cleaning the room and doing everything. And more I feel it are happy moments. We live in moments. And the more moments we can give people who are depending on us, the more moments we can give or we can share, because they give me happy moments too. Because I learn a lot of people with dementia. I learn a lot of people with developmental disability because they give me the mirror. I want to learn. And I have a lot of many moments, happy moments I can assure you.
I remember speaking to a group one time, and I was talking about my mom, and it was a musical moment where she was just so happy and so joyful. And the staff said, well, you know, would that last 5 seconds? What's the big deal? I said, it happened. It happened. It can be relived. It can be re-remembered by them, by me, by anyone else I share it with.
Yes, yes.
You know, you can't judge it by a time lapse. And I think sometimes people think that, you know, they take the grains of time and say, well, that was only a couple of seconds. But when we think about what brings us pure joy, usually it's those little teeny moments.
Yes, yes.
It didn't last long, but they are so embedded in our heart and our soul that they stay with us, and we relive this calmness or this happiness. And the other thing that I think people miss is, you know, everyone's, you know, talks about like the ripple effect, and people will say, well, you know, when there's negative energy, it ripples out. And it's like, so does joy. So does joy, but we're not paying attention to that, and we're focusing on the negatives rippling out instead of overriding it with the joyful moments.
Yes, I agree totally with you. We are in the same level, in the same feeling. That's why I call my book Moving On by Standing Still. First, you have to stand still. But more and more, I enjoy my life because I see I have a lot of happy moments with people. They are very small, but they are very precious. Yes. So, I like to talk with you about this. We are the same, but you live in the wrong country, I think.
It's exciting times. It's exciting times to try to get people to make that shift. You know, I don't know if I ever shared with you my fears, tears, and joy. Those are the three things that I think people remember. And the fears are usually everything we feel that we've lost.
Yes.
And we can kind of, you know, get in that whole spiral and get sucked down. And not that we don't have to grieve, but if we can remember that we would never have great tears if we never had great love to begin with. And so to kind of flip that to a gratitude. And then the other side we spin in is the future. And the future is all the things we worry about that we have to do or we should do or we could have done or, you know, whatever. It's kind of the woulda, shoulda, couldas in trying to fix everything instead of kind of going with the flow. And when we live in the fear of the future or the tears of the past, we miss the moment in front of us. And the moment in front of us is the only one we can identify joy or create joy. And so if we truly want joy, we have to consciously know where we're spending our time. Where is our head at? And focus on that. And I think that's what you do so beautifully in terms of teaching people the importance of being in the moment.
Yes, I like it.
And once again, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I so appreciate you staying up late in the Netherlands to talk to us here in the U.S. and get you by going to your site. You can go ahead and contact him by email or website, his LinkedIn. He's even given his Skype address out and his phone number. So, he's not running away from you.
No, I like to have contact with many people. So I'm very happy to be not in your show. I'm very happy to meet you again. That's more than being in your show. It was a nice meeting. But if you give me the opportunity to meet my old friends like Harry, I would like to be there. So
okay. We will arrange that again. Well, sounds wonderful. You take care. And again, thank you so much. And everyone, please go out and buy his book. You'll find it fascinating. And, you know, if you're a company really looking for some culture change, think about having them come over and do some training for you. We'd love to have you come to the U.S. So thank you again so much for your time, and we will talk soon.
Bye, Laurie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.